Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this special planning meeting under the Planning Act for July 14th, 2014 to order. I'd like to welcome each of you to the council chambers. We do have a number of items on the agenda this evening, and we appreciate your patience and your understanding. We want to make sure we hear from as many people as possible to answer any questions that people have, or the proponents will be answering questions that council has and that residents may have. We will be going through each of the applications in order. Once you're welcome to stay the entire evening, but once that issue is that you are interested in is done, you can please feel free to leave as well. So we will begin with adoption of the agenda. It has been moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Lane, that the agenda for the July 14th, 2014 special meeting of Committee of the Whole be adopted as circulated. What's it say? There's also an amendment to this, Council. It's regarding correspondence from Heimel Properties. Do we want to take that as an amendment? Or can it be? Well, we'll include that in the main motion, okay, as amended. Any further discussion on the agenda? I do want to say that the agendas before us is, and I said this as at the door earlier, the first item is the regarding 809 Foss Road. The second item is regarding what's called Ryan's Grove, formerly Homesteads Extension 2. The third item is the, where is it here? The agricultural parcel located on Cream Street. And then the fourth and final item is the East Fawn Hill lands, the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. So that's what's before council right now, and that's what we're going to vote on. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Our next item is what's called disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. That is, if any councillors have any conflicts of interest that they need to disclose at this time. And I wonder if any councillors have any conflicts that they need to disclose. Councillor Ribiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a conflict or perceived conflict with respect to item 5.1 in as much as my property is within the notification radius of the property in question.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Any other further conflicts? And I would ask the clerk to note that there were no further conflicts at this time. Now we'll move to the first item. First item is an application for zoning bylaw amendment for 809 Foss Road. The amendment allows for, or if approved, the amendment will allow for multi-residential semi-detached dwelling unit. The Planning Act requires under Section 3412 the council must have at least one public meeting like this for the purpose of informing the public of the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. This public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on June 24th, 2014. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendment of the zoning bylaw. In addition to the planning staff providing information on the application, we will also receive any comments which any member of the public may wish to offer. And I would ask when you do that, if you could come to the podium. We are videotaping this, and it will be available on our website. So we want to record your voice. So if you could come to the podium, don't be scared, and just ask your questions, say what you have. But also the clerk has asked for each of the applications if you could give us your name and your address, and if...
Just their name.
Just their name?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, just their name. And we may ask you to spell it if it's not Smith, okay? So to help the clerk out, because she doesn't have the sheets in front of her, and I apologize to you for that. Mine is a difficult one to spell. Everybody gets it wrong. There is an attendance list on the tables, which we would ask all present to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passage of the amendment by council, should this occur. If a person or body decides to file an appeal of a decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw and does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendment is adopted or refused, the Ontario Municipal Board, where the amendment would, or where the appeal would go, may dismiss all or part of the appeal. In closing, we stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and therefore any comments received will be taken into account by council for their consideration. The first is opening remarks from planning staff regarding the proposed application.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of committee and council, and those in the public. I'm here on behalf of the planning staff to present the application to amend the zoning bylaw to allow for a multi-residential, semi-detached dwelling unit. The subject parcel is located on the north side of Foss Road, west of Church Street. The subject parcel is surrounded by residential use. The parcel currently has one single detached dwelling and two accessory structures, a shed and a garage. The parcel is buffered by mature natural vegetation, including deciduous and coniferous trees and shrubs. To provide you with some context on the planning policies of this parcel, I will inform you that the parcel is located outside of the Greenbelt Plan area boundary, as well as the Niagara Escarpment Plan area boundary, and therefore are not subject to those policies. With respect to the 2014 provincial policy statement, the subject parcel is located within a designated settlement area, and under section 1.1.3, settlement areas are the urban and rural settlements that can include city, towns, villages, and hamlets. These areas vary in terms of size, density, population, and economic activity, diversity and intensity in land uses, service levels, and types of infrastructure that is available. Policy 1.1.3 identifies these settlement areas as the focus of growth. According to policy 1.4.1 of the policy statement, under housing, it states that an appropriate range of housing types and densities are required to meet the projection of current and future residents shall be provided. Furthermore, establishing development standards for residential intensification, redevelopment, and new residential development, which minimizes the cost of housing and facilitate compact form, while maintaining appropriate levels of public health and safety. Policy 1.6.6.2 states that municipal sewage service and municipal water services are the preferred form of servicing settlement areas. Intensification and redevelopment within settlement areas on existing municipal sewage and water services should be promoted whenever feasible. The subject parcel is subject to the Places to Grow growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The policies of the growth plan speak to encouraging and directing development towards built-up areas, which ensures that development takes place where services and infrastructure exists and can be easily extended in a cost-effective manner in order to ensure that population growth occurs in an efficient manner. Specifically, section 2.2.9 under rural areas, new multiple lots and units for residential development will be directed to settlement areas and may be allowed in rural areas in site-specific locations with approved zoning or designation that permits this type of development in a municipal official plan as effective of the date of this plan, of the Greenbelt, of the growth plan. According to the Region of Niagara Sustainable Community Policies, the Policy Plan Amendment 2-2009, the subject parcel is located within the urban area. With respect to residential intensification, each municipality in the region shall meet a minimum set target, which is established by the region. And for the town of Pelham, the minimum standard percent on an annual development for residential intensification is 15%. To achieve this target, the redevelopment of land and increasing the quantity of dwellings and dwelling types are compatible and appropriate in scale to the surrounding area are encouraged. Section 5.4, residential areas and housing, states that the region encourages the provision of a variety of housing types within urban communities and neighborhoods to serve a variety of people as they age through the life cycle. According to the town's currently approved 1974 official plan, the subject parcel is designated as special village residential whereby the predominant use of land is for single-family dwellings, with a limited number of family dwellings, which may include senior citizen accommodations. The village residential development shall consist of larger than average lots to maintain the village atmosphere, as opposed to those smaller urban lots. The new official plan, which is awaiting approval by the Ontario Municipal Board, designates the subject parcel as urban living area built boundary. Under this designation, the permitted uses include but are not limited to single detached residential, accessory apartments, semi-detached, townhouses, multiple and apartment dwellings. Specifically, under policy B113, residential intensification, it notes that residential intensification is defined as the development or redevelopment of existing vacant lots or underutilized land within existing urban areas of Fawn Hill and Fenwick into building types that more efficiently use existing urban space and services. According to policy B115, semi-detached townhouse, multiple and apartment dwellings, in considering a zoning bylaw amendment to permit a semi-detached townhouse, multiple or apartment dwelling development, council shall be satisfied that the proposal will respect the character of adjacent residential neighborhoods in terms of height, bulk, and massing, can be easily integrated within the surrounding land uses, will not cause or create traffic hazards or an unacceptable level of congestion on surrounding roads, is located on a site that has adequate land area to incorporate required parking, recreational, landscaping, and buffering on site. The subject parcel is zoned residential village RV1, which permits one single detached dwelling on one lot. Buildings and structures accessory thereto and home occupations are also permitted. In accordance with the Planning Act requirements for public participation, a formal public notice was issued to the properties within 120 meters of 400 feet of the subject parcel on June 24th of this year. In addition, a public notice poster was also placed on lands fronting Foss Road. During the 20-day appeal period, a planning department received one comment by a member of the public and pertained to the protection of the matured natural fence line of Colorado spruce that acts as a buffer between the two properties. Also of concern was about the proximity of the proposed dwelling unit to the lot line and such that it maintains an adequate space for privacy between the two properties. Notice of this application was also circulated to all external agencies and internal departments having an interest on this application. The town's Public Works and Utilities, Building, and Fire Department offered no objections to the proposed amendment. The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority noted that the subject parcel has no environmental features that are regulated by the agency and therefore offer no objections to the amendment. Comments from the region's planning development services are pending, and however, they will be included as part of the planning staff's recommendation report for council's consideration. So to conclude, the intent of this meeting on this application is to provide you, the members of committee and council, also to the members of the public, an opportunity to receive the information and not to make any formal decisions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Next on the agenda is the applicant's presentation. Is the applicant or his or her agent present and wants to make application or add anything to the planning report? You're more than welcome to do that, and you could.
Hi, my name is Patricia Penzek. I'm just wanting to let people know that I have that house there for quite a few years. It's time to come down. It's so deteriorated already. There's nothing really worth saving in that house. We're not planning on putting anything there of a monstrosity or anything like that. We would just like to keep something that fits into the neighborhood. We would like a side-by-side, a bungalow style, preferably. And we would like to keep as many trees as we can on the property. We're just, like I said, the house needs to come down. It's not a nice site on the street. The yard is not kept from my tenants, and it's just something that needs to be done. It's to make the street look nice. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Pensek, for your presentation. Now is time for public input. Are there any members of the public who would like to address council, ask questions that we might get answers from staff or from the applicant. If you
Mayor,
could say your
council.
name, please.
My name is Marcel Morin. I'm the property owner on the west side of 809 Foss Road. I have really no problem with the new dwelling going up in place. I think it's actually a very good idea. I don't disagree with that at all. My only concern is with the fact that it is on Foss Road. The surface water may or may not be an issue of this particular application, only because being that I own the house on the actual west side of the home and knowing how often my sump pump runs already, I'm just asking that some consideration be given to the actual elevation line of the property when it's finally finished. Because of the surface water in that area, Church Street already has some huge issues with surface water, especially in some of the weather systems that we have as of late. So that's my only concern.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moran, for your presentation. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to comment or ask a question about the application? Please come forward, sir.
I'm John Daly. I live on the east side of 809 Foss Road. I would like to agree with the previous residents. Our sump pump is running a lot as well, especially in the rainy conditions. So, yeah, water elevation and elevation of the property is definitely one of my concerns.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public input?
Hi, my name's Cheryl Petrie. I live at 822 Foss Road. The issue I have with this new dwelling is that the old one was not kept up to like a good standard. The yard is a mess all the time, and if you have to tear down a building, it makes me wonder why this wasn't maintained. So my concern is if you're putting two new dwellings on there, or a semi-detached home, is this going to be maintained better than the present property?
Okay.
Actually, I don't have the size. What's the size of that property, do you know?
Ms. Smythe, do you know the size
Yes.
of the property, please?
It is approximately, well, it's 0.37 acres, so. 0.15 hectares, so it's,
Don't put, like, as far as feet, like the front or the
okay,
depth
so
or-
frontage is 100 frontage
Okay,
and 165 deep.
okay,
Thank you, Ms. Smythe.
thank you. So when the
Ms.
two
Petrie?
dwellings go on, is this property subdivided because they're two separate dwellings? How does that work?
Ms. Smythe?
Through to you, Chair. Yes. The intent is to proceed with the amendment to allow for semi-detached. And based on the discussions with the proponent, I believe there will be a secondary planning process with respect to severing the parcels so that they're two different parcels.
Okay.
I think that's basically all I have to say.
Okay,
I
thank
hope
you
that
so much.
if it is built, that it's taken care of better than it's been taken care of.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. And there was another gentleman that was, please come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Jake Braun. I currently live at 12 Martha Court. That's directly to the north of this property. I reside there with my wife and daughter. We've built that residence in December of 2012. We do have some concerns regarding this proposal. Mainly mine is for it being a multi-residential home. Some of the concerns include a poor aesthetic design. We are given sketches here, however, there's no determining whether that's the sketch that is actually going to be used and what will be built there. Believe that having a multi-residential home would be a threat to the neighborhood character. It is primarily single-family residences there. Believe it will decrease the surrounding property value of all of the houses. My wife and I and everyone else on Martha Court there, I know we've spent a lot of money on our residences, and that's one concern, that it may decrease the actual property value, as I would believe that this is determined to be a rental property, as it is right now, and as the previous woman had stated, yes, the property is definitely in disarray, and who's to say if the new tenants, and now we're going to potentially have two sets of tenants there, that may just continue with that type of upkeep. Rental units attracting lower income residents, therefore less desirable neighbors. Again, we can't determine who's going to live there, so not saying that everyone in that category would be a poor neighbor, but it can definitely attract poor neighbors. My one question is, what does multi-residential mean? Is that just going to be a duplex, or could it be a fourplex or an apartment building? To me, multi-residential means a number of things. So if it were to be passed that it was multi-residential, does that mean that they would be able to build something larger than a duplex? Is that something?
Yeah, let's get an answer from planning staff. Ms. Smythe, can you assist the,
Sure, Chair, through to
Braun?
you. The proposal is only for one semi-detached unit.
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Braun.
Okay. We also have a natural barrier, of this being in our backyard, have a natural barrier of large mature trees that separates the properties. If there was anything done to these trees, it would have a negative impact on our property as well as the surrounding properties. They provide a windbreak for us, privacy, shade in our backyard. They're also home to many small animals, birds, and of course help provide us with clean air. They're a beautiful backdrop to our home and are one of the reasons why we chose to build a home in Fenwick. And at the time of us purchasing and building, we had 6 different lots that we could choose from. I chose that lot specifically for that reason. Had I known this was going to go through, I may have had to second guess for where we had chose to build on lot number 17 there. Just an idea from us is that multi-residential units should be built in a rural area, not near homes where the owner's property value may decrease, or better yet, build them in the city where these types of units already exist. If this amendment is passed, what is it to stop other properties in the area from developing multi-residential units as well? I know that section of Foss Road has similar homes that are in the condition where, you know, they're 50 to 70 years old, and if this is passed, what's to stop anyone else from trying to do a similar amendment? I do know also there is a property, I believe it's 4 houses to the west of this one that's currently for sale. So what's to stop someone from trying to purchase that land to do a similar build? There's zoning in place for single-family houses to protect property values, as well as many other reasons, and what I believe makes Fenwick a desirable place to live. We both feel that the development of multi-family complexes will change Fenwick from a friendly small town into a city environment. I guess that would be if this continues to happen. In conclusion, we would prefer a single family residence to be built in place instead of a multi-residential dwelling unit. I have no opposition to a single family residential home being built there. I would actually prefer that to take place of what is there right now. It's just this multi-residential that is the main concern for us. And I can tell you right now that if this is granted, I definitely will be appealing, and I'd like to thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Braun. Thank you for your presentation. Brothers, sir?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, my name is Terry Gallatley. I live at 14 Martha Court. I agree with everything Jake just said wholeheartedly. A couple of questions I have is, will we get to comment further if there is, or if and when there is a site plan issued to the city for a review?
Ms. Smythe.
Chair, through to you. No, the town does not have a requirement for site plan for single and multi-semi-detached dwelling units. It's only for larger scale residential, commercial, industrial.
There's no way of knowing what trees will be salvaged or taken down at the previous to the development starting?
Ms. Mike, can you answer that? There's,
Chair, through to you. What we will be doing, prior to any recommendation coming forward for council's consideration, we'll likely meet again with the proponent to discuss all opportunities to salvage as much vegetation on site as possible.
okay, thank you.
It does indicate outbuildings other than the main residence. Is there, do we know how many that includes?
Ms. Mike, can you speak about the outbuildings?
Sir, sorry, can I just ask, are you asking if they're gonna be demolished, or?
No, it refers to a main residence and
Yes.
other buildings being put on the property, i.e. sheds and/or garages.
Correct. So there is the provision to allow for accessory structures to those multi-use dwelling units.
And what does that include and how
It
many?
could include a shed, yes,
So just like a normal home?
And plus a garage, or is the garage attached? There's no way of us,
Through to you, Chair. At the moment, the proposal the schematic that was provided as part of the application shows that the dwelling has an attached garage. So the proponent could likely have a detached garage, shed to the rear of the dwelling unit, and they would be permitted to allow for that to happen. There would be, as part of the zoning, under the provisions, an upset maximum lot coverage that would need to be upheld as well on the parcel.
So, Ms. Smythe, that means that if they couldn't cover the entire lot with another
Correct.
outbuilding, a shed, et cetera?
Certain- Yes, there'd be a certain maximum lot coverage allowed for that unit.
Okay, thank you, sir.
and one more comment. If some trees were taken down that we were, we felt that were, should have been saved, can any mitigating planting or any planting be done to help mitigate the impact on our properties that back onto there? Can
Ms.
that
Smythe,
be-
and,
Chair, through to you, I'll have to have that discussion with the proponent.
okay, thank you. I have a question for you, if you don't mind. There are trees on the diagram that we've received between Martha Court and the properties on Foss, but they appear in the diagram, which is an old aerial photo, they appear to be on the Martha Court
There are
properties.
some on the Martha Court side, but there's also some very mature trees on the Foss Road property.
Okay. Ms. Plinsick, do you want to comment?
On my back line, by the fence there.
Say that again, please?
There's no trees on the backyard of mine, but he's my neighbor, and he can, I don't
Well,
live there.
there's a very large maple tree that is in the corner of my property, that hangs my property, that's on that property that's being developed. So I'm not sure, if you don't live there, I obviously you own it,
Yeah.
and if you don't live there,
So-
maybe you should visit and just see what trees are there, because there are trees
Well,
there.
Okay, sir,
I'm not sure, but
this is not supposed to be a conversation between,
there are.
I was asking the question, just
Trees
please,
on the property.
sir. Okay, so there are trees, and we've now heard that that's a great concern. And in addition, I think maybe folks don't know where the property lines are or whatever. I know one of the items of correspondence we received said they'd like that finalized, so if that can be done as well. Is there anything further, sir?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any other presenters for a first time? Please come forward.
My name is Nick Remar. I live at 10 Martha Court, just beside Mr. Braun. I'm a recent move. I just recently moved to Fenwick the last few years, and we came from Welland. And my last home was a new home also. It was built in an area that was densified in this manner. That was the primary reason why we moved out here. There was just too many absentee landlords, people coming and going. We selected this lot to build on primarily because of the location of it, the houses, the single-family houses that are around it, and yeah, the trees and the greenery, what have you. I don't see this as being necessary for that particular location. I mean, yes, densify housing in areas where you already have that type of thing going on, or where there's a projection that this may happen, but this may open a door to have more of this. I mean, there's a lot of large lots. Our lot is not much smaller in size than the lot that's being proposed to be changed to semi-detached. So what stops any other homeowners in that area from doing the same thing? You know, hey, they did it, we're gonna do it too. So if you put a single-family home, that wouldn't substantially change the character of the neighborhood. I mean, that area, that's what drew us there. There was a lot of mature homes, it was a very nice area. In that respect, I personally feel that a single-family home would be more suitable for that particular location. But the house there that's there now is in very poor repair, and it has been like that since before we got there. There's all manner of, for lack of a better description, partying going on there. Bonfires, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, tents set up, I don't know. It's gotten to the point where I can't get my night's sleep, I gotta go to work the next day. So my concern is, if this is passed, I mean, we could have the same scenario happening with this property being rented out on both sides, and then we have, again, more congestion, maybe a rotation of tenants living in there. I don't know, maybe the house may not be kept in the proper state of repair. In those terms, I'm opposed to this particular motion, and I would, you know, respectfully consider that opinion.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Remar. Appreciate that. Are there others for the first time? Ms. Petrie, I'm going to ask Ms. Petrie to comment, and then maybe if you, I know council may have some questions for you as well. Ms. Petrie, can you please come up so people can hear you?
So if there's two dwellings, does that mean there's two driveways?
I believe so. Staff? Ms. Smythe?
Chair, through to you. That could be an option, that it's a shared driveway, depending on where the garage
Garages are.
will be positioned.
Okay.
So is there a bylaw or something about frontage, how close a house can be built to a road? Like, does it have to be a certain amount of feet away from the road? Because 65 feet deep, if you're talking about two semi-detached dwellings plus a shed,
I think it was
that seems to be
165. 165
100
feet
feet.
deep. 100 feet wide, okay.
frontage
So let's get
and
staff to
65
comment
deep.
on that, in
Frontage
terms of
view.
the distance from the roadway and also the lot size again, please.
The proposal is to amend the RV1 to an RV2. The RV2 allows for the semi-detached. The total lot area, the minimum lot frontage, as per your question, is 12 meters. So that means 39.37 feet per unit. That is the frontage. The lot coverage is 30%, so that includes the unit plus any accessory structures. The front yard, minimum front yard, so from the road allowance to where the beginning of the house can be, it's 8 meters, so that's 26.25 feet.
Okay. Any further?
Any other?
Nope, that's
Okay.
basically what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There were a couple of questions that the public had, and you wanted to respond, and I do know the council may have some questions for you. Would you like to respond, Ms. Pensick, just quickly?
I've been there longer than both neighbors on both sides, and longer than North Court, even when it even hasn't even existed, when I was having that house. The problem is why I'm taking that house down is because of rental unit. I do not want rental unit there anymore. I already specified I'm not taking down the trees if they don't have to come down. And Martha Court has monstrosities overlooking our houses on Foss. And when they built there, we had issues with water, and they broke a huge anthill, and that's why we had a huge ant problem. That's why the fence was built there. There's a lot of issues where we took in because of Martha Court.
Okay.
Now, I'm not putting an
Ms.
low-income housing, as you people call it, which
Ms.
is
Penzick?
really
Ms.
disrespectful for people who rent. That's not right.
As council, not
Oh,
your neighbors, okay? And
Yeah,
keep
sorry.
it less personal.
Okay. But
Please.
the point is, I've lived here for many, many years. I want it to make a nice side-by-side, not something that's going to be a low-income housing. I mean, to build something, it's not gonna be low-income housing. It costs money to build. So I would like to put something that's very nice there. I've spoken to people in the neighborhood. The yard is in huge disarray. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. And I'm upset with it the way it is. I own a few properties in Fenwick. I can tell you where they are, and they're all in complete, perfect condition. They're beautiful. This is one I'm having an issue with. This is why it's coming down, and I don't want a rental anymore. I want to make it to sell. I want for 2 new families to come into Fenwick. I love Fenwick. Fenwick is a great place to live. So I was doing this to make it better of the neighborhood, not to make it less in any way whatsoever.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pensick, for your for answering some of those questions from members of the public. Now's the time for committee input. Do councilors have any questions for staff or for the applicant? Councilor Lane.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for staff, if you will. And my concern is on lot coverage. And you mentioned that you have to have 30% lot coverage, and that includes outbuildings as well as the property. And my question is, where does driveways fall under that scenario if they have 2 paved driveways? Does that have an impact on lot coverage, drainage standpoint, and what have you?
Thank you. Ms. Smythe?
Chair, through to you. I'm going to just clarify if lot coverage is if driveways is covered under lot coverage. I don't believe it is, but I will have to confirm. May I get back to you?
Okay. Thank you. Anything further, Councilor, at this time, and as staff look that up?
No, that's fine for now.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Lane. Other members of council? Councilor Papp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the applicant, notwithstanding the fact that you're trying to convert something into something better, can you just, for my own purposes, what is the rationalization for going to a semi-detached as opposed to a single-family home?
Business,
Just from a pure investment point of view?
what we do rentals, we build business. I mean, I could also subdivide it into 2 lots and make 2 homes there then. It's gonna be the same thing. So I don't understand, because if there is enough property there to subdivide it into 2 lots.
Okay, thank you. Councilor?
And just quickly, as that I understand it from what you've stated here tonight, but obviously it's for the purposes of sale, not rental?
No, absolutely not.
So these 2 semi-detached would be put for private sale?
Absolutely.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
thank you, that's, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Pensick. Others? I have I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr.
Ms.
Mayor.
Smythe?
Mr. Chair, through to you. I just confirmed with the zoning bylaw that lot coverage does not include driveways.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Lane. Is there anything further now that you have that answer? No?
No, that's fine. Thank
Okay, thank you. There was a question, this is for the applicant, regarding the design, and a member of the public stated, do we know whether that is the design? Can you just speak about that? That was circulated as part of the application. It's a beautiful, beautiful design. I'd ask you to stand up so people can hear you from across the room.
Yeah, we don't want a big, huge thing. We want it to be, that goes with the flow of the houses that are there. So they're all bungalows. I don't think there's any really, like, big 2 stories or anything like that. So we would like to keep it in the same height as everyone else. I'm looking preferably for a bungalow. I would like a bungalow style, no 2-story.
So just for clarity, this isn't the actual design you're going to build, it's sort of what you have in your mind, is that correct?
It's pretty close, because we would like to have the garages in the center, so the privacy is there for the people when they live there. Because most, you're just kind of trying to work with everything, like trying to make it so that it's suitable for the people in the neighborhood, people who are going to buy the place. So it's just kind of that way.
Okay,
But it definitely is going to be something that's going to be nice. It's not, and again, I've had rentals for years and years. I do not want rentals anymore. And I have been to this house repeatedly on her to clean up, to put your garbage away, cut your grass, and it's just come to the time where I can't do it anymore. And she's not listening, it's not happening. So she does have, and not that I'm supposed to look, there is a warrant, there is a sheriff order for her to be out, because that's how bad it's gotten. So
okay.
she's gotta go. It's just not nice for the neighborhood. It was horrible.
Thank you very much. Other questions from members of committee at this time? No? Okay. So we do have a motion, and it's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley, that Committee of the Whole receives the issue summary report for information as it pertains to this application, which is AM 10914, zoning bylaw amendment to allow for a multi-residential dwelling unit located at 809 Foss Road. And further, that committee directs planning staff to prepare a recommendation report for council's consideration. So again, this doesn't mean that it's a fait accompli. It means that all of the information that you provided this evening will be taken into consideration. We heard that staff will be discussing some of the items specifically regarding water and trees and some of the other items that were discussed. And it will form part of a report that will be coming back to council, and it's at that time that council will be making its decision, okay? Any further comments or questions from members of committee? So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion is carried. We do have one item of correspondence regarding this issue that we need to receive. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King, that the correspondence received at the public meeting held today regarding the zoning application AM 0814 being received for information of committee and referred to the Director of Planning and Development Services as follows. Not Leslie, N-L-E. Laley. Thank you. Comments or questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. That means that particular item is complete. Thank you very much for your input. We appreciate it, and we look forward to your further input when that report becomes public. Thank you so much. Folks at the door, if you want to come in and sit down, as some folks have left their seats, and we'll start in about 30 seconds.
No. Little old Foss Road?
It was all about your apartment building, that's what
That's what it was. Everyone's saying that they regret like hell that they ever allowed that thing and listen to life.
No, but actually, what I find interesting is that they have before Martha.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for your patience as we move from one public meeting to another. Now we're moving to the second item, which is a proposed zoning amendment for the provision of a residential R2 zone. So this is an application for zoning amendment for Ryan's Grove, formerly Fawn Hill Homesteads 2 extension 2, pardon me. File number AM0914, Yugo Luchetta Construction Limited, an amendment to allow for a reduced interior side yard setback, encroachment into the rear yard setback, and reduced exterior side yard setback on lots 1. The Planning Act requires under Section 3412 that council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public of a proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. This public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners of the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on June 23rd, 2014. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendment to the town's zoning bylaw. In addition to the planning staff providing information on the application, we will also receive any comments which any member of the public may wish to offer. There is an attendance list on the table, and we would ask all present to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passage of the amendment by council, should this occur. If a person or public body decides to file an appeal of a decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw and does not make an oral submission at a public meeting this evening, or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendment is adopted or refuted, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of the appeal. In closing, we stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and therefore any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration at a later date. Ms. Smythe, are you prepared to give us some opening remarks, please? Or your planning report, pardon me?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through to you, committee and council, and those again in the gallery. I'm here to present an application to amend the bylaw to permit the reduced interior side yard setback, encroachment into rear yard setbacks, and reduce exterior side yard setbacks. Please note a correction. In the report, I had indicated that the exterior side yard, the proposed reduction on lot 12, in fact, it should be on lot 1. So I just want to bring that to your attention. It's found on page 1 of 7. Just so for easier clarity, I prepared an illustration because prior to the public meeting, I've received numerous phone calls from local members in the neighborhood, just for understanding what do these setbacks mean. So I did a little illustration just for easier recognition. It's not to scale, but it's just to kind of give some clarity.
Thank you, Ms. Smythe.
I will try to increase the view. Okay, I'll have to, wait, let me just see if I can go to 200. Okay, so lot 1, so this is Emily Lane, so it's, so there's Tanner Drive, and it's wrapping around to Braden's Way, and this is the cul-de-sac Emily Lane. This is a registered plan of subdivision, recently registered plan, under 59M406. The request for the amendment, the blue box is just a representation of an approximate building footprint for a dwelling. And I think I put around 1,800 to 2,000 square foot dwelling. That's not to say that's what it is, but it's just a number. One of the requests, this light orange right now, is to indicate this is the existing interior setback, which now is for, 1.5 meters, 4.92 feet. The dark orange here is to represent a reduction to 1.2 meters, 3.93 feet. So you notice the space between the building and the space to where the reduced setback, that just means that space means it offers more opportunity to increase the building footprint, if you will, of the unit to that setback, to the dark orange, as per this proposed request. The second request is the minimum exterior side yard setback, and this just pertains to the lots that's on the outside, the lots abutting, where there's no lots on either side, it's abutting a road. So it only pertains to this lot here, lot 1. So I just showed the representation in green, allocating, it's right now, the bylaw is permitting a 5 meters, 16.4 feet. The proposed is for 3 meters, 9.84 feet. So that's what that proposal's for. The last request for an amendment is the encroachment into the rear yard. Now, the light purple shade is to represent what the rear yard setback is for an R2 zone. And right now, it's a 7.5 meter, so 24.61 feet. The encroachment, as per the zoning bylaw, allows for an additional 1.5 meters, 4.2 feet, 92 feet, sorry, a 9 is missing there, which means a total of 9 meters, so 29.53 feet. the building, and then, so the building, and then this is where the light purple is allowed for the like that's in total, okay? The dark purple is the proposal. The proposal is to, excuse me, I'll just go over here. So it's to maintain still the 7.5 meters, but the request is to increase the encroachment to 3 meters. So an additional 5 feet is what the proposal is for at the moment. So I just want to show that representation for everybody, and I will just continue with my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Smythe. That does help.
So continue, the subject lands is approximately in total 1.89 hectares, so 4.65 acres, located on the south side of the existing lots of Sadler Street and east of the existing lots on Tanner Drive. The subject lands are surrounded by low to medium density residential. The lands are currently vacant with flat with some vegetation scattered throughout. The lands are located within the Lot 177 secondary plan area and designated for infill development within the Fawn Hills urban boundary. The parcel is located outside of the Greenbelt and Niagara Escarpment, and therefore those policies do not apply. According to the provincial policy statement under 2014, this provides policy direction on matters of provincial interest related to land use planning and development. The long-term prosperity and social well-being, depending on maintaining the strong communities, is a clean and healthy environment and a strong community. Policy 1.4.1 under housing, the PPS states that an appropriate range of housing types and densities required to meet projected requirements of current and future residents is to be provided. Furthermore, establishing development standards for residential intensification, redevelopment, and new residential development, which minimizes the cost of housing and facilitate compact form while maintaining appropriate levels of public health and safety. The lands are subject to the Places to Grow growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The policies of the growth plan speak to encouraging and directing development towards built-up areas, which ensures that development takes place where services and infrastructure are existing and such that it's cost-effective, in a cost-effective manner to ensure that population grows efficiently. According to the Region of Niagara Sustainable Communities Policies, Policy Plan Amendment 2-2009, the lands are located within the urban area. Section 4.1 speaks to growth management objectives in the region and includes but not limited to building compact, mixed use, transit supportive, active transportation, friendly communities in built-up areas. Section 5.4.2 under residential areas and housing, the region encourages the development of attractive, well-designed residential development that provides for active transportation within neighborhoods with connections to adjacent residential and commercial areas, parks and schools, de-emphasizes garages, especially in the front yard, emphasizes the entrance and points of access to neighborhoods, is accessible to all persons, incorporates the principles of sustainability in building design, provides functional design solutions for such services as waste collection and recycling, provides an attractive, interconnected, and active transportation-friendly streetscape, contributes to a sense of safety in the public realm, balances the need for private and public space, creates or enhances aesthetically pleasing and functional neighborhoods, and lastly, encourages a variety of connections based on transportation modes between land use based on diverse transportation areas, allowing people to move freely between places where they live, work, and play. Under the currently approved 1974 official plan, the subject lands are subject to section 1.57.1 lot 177 secondary plan policies. And the designation of the area is for single family and semi-detached units. Specifically, policy 1.57.1.8 is the provision of a housing mix varying in lot sizes and tenure, and the town will consider applications for undersized single detached lots and semi-detached units, providing the building designs and densities of the proposal consider the character and identity of surrounding residential lands. Furthermore, it refers to low-density character of the existing residential areas, which will be protected in the process of considering new development and residential infilling. In accordance with the new official plan awaiting approval by the Ontario Municipal Board, the subject lands are designated as urban living built boundary and potential intensification area. The policies of the urban living area built boundary is to promote the efficient use of existing and planned infrastructure through various forms of residential intensification. According to section B1.1.11, lot 177, the purpose of this special policy is to provide a strategy and general policy direction to assist in facilitating an orderly built-out of this important residential area of the town. The area is characterized by extensive underdeveloped vacant land. The planning area is also highly fragmented, which makes it challenging to fully achieve intensification targets. This plan encourages, however, coordination amongst landowners in an effort to produce orderly infill development that makes the most efficient use of urban services and land. The subject lands are zoned residential R2 and permits one single detached dwelling on one lot, buildings and structures accessory and home occupations. Again, under the Planning Act requirements for public participation, the formal notice was issued on June 23rd of this year to all properties within 400 feet of the parcel. In addition, public notice posters were placed on lands fronting Tanner and Mason Drive. The Planning Department has not received any formal comments from the public during the 20-day notice period. Notice of the application was also circulated to internal and external agencies having an interest. The Public Works and Utilities noted that the setback modifications may affect easements and lot grading and may be affected and should be reflected in a revised lot grading plan. The Building and Fire Department offered no objections to the proposed amendment. The Niagara Conservation Authority noted that the parcel, has no environmental features that are regulated by the agency and offered no objections. The Region's Planning and Development Services Department, their comments have been provided, and they indicated that it meets the intent from a provincial and regional policy framework and offered no objection to the proposed amendments. In conclusion, the intent of my presentation is just to inform you and the members of the public of this application and to make no formal decisions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smythe, for your presentation. Next on the agenda is the applicant's presentation. Would the applicant like to make a presentation, please? Mr. Lucetta.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Lucetta, and we're the applicant. And we're looking for those three items that Susan had spoken about. We bought this property from another developer, and the zoning at that time was already in place. So that's why we're coming to you now looking for a variance to this or an amendment to the existing zoning. What we're looking to do here, we're looking to put in homes that are basically from 16 to 2,500 square feet, mainly bungalows. Bungalows with double car garages, roomy entranceways, and probably like a bedroom or a den of some sort next to it. So I need homes that are a little bit wider. What you find is, especially in the cul-de-sac at the front of those lots is very narrow. And so it makes it very difficult without going further back into the lot to actually put a home that has a double car garage, a roomy entrance, and a decent sized den or bedroom. So that's why we're looking for this type of amendment. A couple of things there, as far as the items that were asked for. So the side yard setbacks, again, with that I'll be able to do a little wider home, which is what we're looking for. So the side yard setback on the exterior and the side yard setback on the interior, I think that's basically what we're looking for. The other thing, though, is the reduced rear setback. I think that's maybe the one that's a little more controversial. What we're looking for there is basically to be allowed to cover the porches. These homes, the lots are not very deep, so in some cases, the rear yard of the home, or the rear of the home may only be 25 feet away from the actual end of the lot. And at that point, they would be able to put a deck, right, uncovered, and put their patio set on that deck. We, of course, are finding more of a demand now for people to have covered decks. So all we're asking for basically, or what we're really looking for here, is to be able to cover that deck. We're not looking to increase the amount of the distance, or shorten the distance of the home, shorten the distance of the rear yard as far as the house goes. In other words, making the house deeper. We're looking to be able to cover the porches. That's in essence what we're doing for that. So that's really what we're looking for. We have already, this zoning that we're looking for, this amendment that we're looking for, we already have in place in, say, for example, Timsdale and Brondes Lane. That's in essence, we have 4-foot side yards, and on the exterior side yards, we have 10 feet. And so that's really what we're looking for here too. And that's in essence my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lucetta, for your presentation. Next, we open it up to members of the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to make a presentation? I'd encourage you to come up here, state your name for the record, and then provide some comment to committee.
I have a lot of questions. My name's Betty Bond. I live at 12 Sadler. Have done for over 14 years. I was the group in trying to prevent this a few years ago, and that didn't happen. There's a few questions I'd like to ask. Is why this encroachment has just come up? When did the building and planning department get the plans of the lots and the houses? And also, why can't the builder, if they're encroaching onto that, build smaller houses? There's a few people, my neighbor, a few years ago, got a permit to build a sunroom, and he wanted to go 2 more feet out. And he was denied because there has to be so much footage from the end of your house to your property line. And he couldn't do it. I've heard of other people who've done stuff and they've been fined that. So why can't the builder build houses according to the size of the lot? That's one of my questions.
So you asked a couple questions there. First for staff about the receipt of this from the applicant, Ms. Smythe. Can you talk about the timing of it? I think was a question.
Chair, as part of the proposal, the encroachment was part of the application. It was always forming part of the application. With respect to the plan, the register plan was just recent. I'm going to say within the last 2 months that the plan itself actually became registered. So there's an agreement between the town and Lucetta Construction Limited to have this subdivision, if you will. With respect, now please, the representation I provided may not be doing justice, I apologize, but, so it's not to scale, obviously. It's just to kind of show that the intent of the proposal for the encroachment is for 5 feet, for an additional 5 feet.
So I think the question was the timing, so that once it was registered, then the applicant made, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
And then there was a question to the applicant himself about why not smaller homes?
Yes, to adjust to the size of the lot rather than taking more. The lots aren't big.
Okay.
The lot behind us, I don't know. I have a few other questions anyway.
Well,
I'd like to know, and I'm sure we've got a few people here, would like to know what house is going behind us, whether it's a 2-story or a single story. I think we should be entitled to know that.
Ms. Smythe, is that something that's
Mr. Chair, through to you.
the town's involved in?
The RV2 zone permits a 2-story. With respect to which is going behind which, I would divert that question to the proponent.
Mr. Lucetta, are you able to answer the first?
We don't know. Again,
You could stand up, please.
We will mainly be building bungalows, but at this point in time, we don't know. We have a number of people who are interested that we're working with right now in plans. And in answer to your first question, of course, Most of them are looking for homes that are roughly between 18 to 21 to 2,200 square feet like that, so that's what we're trying to accommodate.
I would ask that when people respond, and there's a reason for this, that they, I'm not trying to power trip or anything, but that they go through the chair of the meeting, so that it keeps it, it's not like
Sorry.
personal.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no, and I'm not, it's more for Mr. Lucetta, so that it's, we answer the question and we all understand and we're asking for committee. So I would ask that others do
Another
that.
concern, and when we first approached this a few years ago about it, there's only 2 entrances into the area. And we're now going to get 26 more houses with the townhomes and the houses behind here, plus the other development that's going on at the Wilson Crossing. I don't know how many are going in there. And we still have only 2 entrances and exits with more cars. And this we brought up before, if you remember.
Yes. Yes, you did, and this plan has changed a little bit, and it's a bit broader than this particular application. I don't know if Mr. CAO wants to respond in terms of the, or Ms. Smythe, in terms of the car traffic.
Sure, through to you, Mr. Chair. As part of this development, there is going to be the road, so the continuation of Tanner will go through to the bottom end of this development, and then it will tie up to Mason Drive. So there will be a road allowance to connect up to existing Mason Drive where it terminates to Sadler. So Sadler is an exit, egress, ingress into this development, as well as homesteads.
That's still only 2.
Currently, yes, currently, those are the 2 only egress, ingress. However, the town is working with other potential opportunities for the continuation of development in lot 177. And the intent to adhere to the policy is to have another terminus or egress, ingress to connect up to Merrily Street. So that would be another entry exit point. However, it's going to take some time to get to that point.
I don't have an awful lot of cars. There's just one point, digressing a bit, is the bylaw for working hours to the contractors and subcontractors. Because when the contractor came in taking the trees down, he took them down, and he took them down on Good Friday, Easter Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and didn't stop at 7. Plus, a lot of trucks came in with buzz saws cutting up the trees. So that Easter was ruined. We couldn't even sit out for the noise and everything going on. So I would like to make sure that the contractors and subcontractors are made aware of the working hours, 7 to 7, I understand, and no Sundays or holidays. I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, for your questions. Are there others? Please come forward.
Mr. Mayor and council members and everyone here. My name is Mary Joanne Macaretta, M-A-C-O-R-E-T-T-A. I live at 16 Sadler Street. I wish to make this oral submission to this public meeting regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended. The applicant seeks to amend the zoning bylaws encroachment into the rear of his lots that are at the property line of the existing homes that are built there. Mine is one of the 1 to 12 properties which would be affected if this bylaw is amended, as he wants to do, to give him additional land for his houses that he plans to build. This bylaw was written and approved to give space for a home or a garage, deck, etc., not to encroach upon someone's space at the property lines. 9 years ago, we had a sunroom built onto our home at the back. And our builder was very aware of this bylaw. And as a result, our stairs from the decking was 1 foot over the mandatory limit. And as a result, he had to turn the stairs to the side to accommodate this law. I have heard of people in the town of Fonthill who disregarded this ruling, went ahead with the building, and became over the amount allowed. As a result, they were giving choices. You move your building, you shorten it, or you pay a hefty fine. Why now is this builder wanting to change this law and build his homes even closer to ours? What is the bylaw for? He has decided to come into this area that surrounds on all 4 sides by streets. There are 4 streets with homes in the middle. It is a postage size area that I think he finally realized was too small for the homes that he's planning to build there. Now he wants to encroach and amend the bylaw that we all had to abide by. I personally do not want this amendment. For an example, a backyard property that's so close to mine that a person shaking his or her rug, the dust would be right in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Macaretta, for your presentation. There was another gentleman here that'd like to present. I'd ask if you take your hat off, please, as you make your presentation to council. Thank you.
As you know, I've been here before. My name is Tim Lucas, Lukacs.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Good to see you again.
According to this diagram here, you're seeing lot number 1. I live behind lot number 2. So what you're seeing is the purple is what's going to be coming closer to me. Is that what you're saying?
Ms. Smythe, can you please
Mr. Chair,
assist
through
the
you,
gentleman?
I just want to apologize. This is not to scale by any means. So it's not to say what you see here is where you're going to see an encroached deck approach the limits of your property. What I was just trying to represent, probably could have made the square shorter, is just to suggest.
You are coming closer. You are coming
The
closer.
proposal,
Yes, he is, yeah.
the
Okay.
proposal is
Mr. Lucas,
for
please, let's hear the
an
answer.
increase of 5 feet for the encroachment.
And so that the total encroachment, or the distance would be what from the property line, Ms. Smythe?
Okay, so, right now, I think it's 29, over 29 feet. So the back of the building to the property line, that has to be upheld. The request is to go 34 feet. So the back of the building, sorry, not the back, is it the, sorry.
You're just coming closer to the back of my line.
24 feet.
Yes,
Right.
correct.
Okay.
So this red line, is that representing a fence?
Ms. Smythe?
Through to you, Chair, based on my discussions with the proponent, the intent is to put a fence along the back of all of those properties.
And Mr. Lucas, I believe the red line itself is the property line, is that correct, Ms. Smythe?
Property line.
Okay,
That
go
is
ahead.
correct.
So
Thank you.
probably a fence would be along that property line.
Through to you,
Because-
Chair, Mr. Chair, the proponent had indicated to planning staff that there is the intent to build a privacy fence along the rear of those lots.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lucas?
Because I'm one of the few people that do not have a fence. And I would like a fence.
Okay.
Also, I'm not going to get into it too heavy, but anyways, there's one other question for Mr. Lucetta. When you're coming in on Homestead, you come up to the end, there's a stop sign. And I've been watching the construction, this and that, and they put some pegs in with some fluorescent paints, and they're marked for hydro, for cable lines. I do have a concern, and I asked Mr. Lucetta if he could consider, instead of ripping up the road like they do, they saw cut the road, and they usually saw cut about a foot wide, and they put the cables through or whatever have to, if it's possible to line bore, there's a new way of doing that, by line boring under the road, which makes it much easier if it's possible. And you always, as you know, you cut up a main road, it never settles the same. You're either with a gully or you're with a hump. So I'm asking also if that can be considered to put the cables underneath. Plus, if whoever's gonna do it and they saw cut that road, then again, Homestead is one of the main arteries coming in. They're gonna tie up traffic like you wouldn't believe. Just a little heads up. So, other than that, that's what I have at this time. And I'd appreciate also, as the ladies are saying, if you can, build some nice bungalows. If you do go wider, have a nice large bungalow, stay away from the 2 stories for us off of the pie-shaped lots. There's 5 pie-shaped lots. Generally, the pie shape you see 2-story as a rule. So I understand where you're coming from. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lucas, and I'm sure Mr. Lucetta will consider that as he develops his plans for the construction. Thank you. Other presenters, other public input on this particular file? I don't see any. Now, time for committee to ask questions. Members of committee have any questions? Councillor Durley.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, and probably to Mr. Lucetta, this development was controversial at best from the start, although it was compliant with the official plan and the zoning regulations. So nothing legally could have been done to stop it. However, the requests that were brought forward in public meetings at that time, if I recall, were to have consideration for that which is around there. And there's a new owner here now, so the negotiations, if you will, or the discussions were not with the current owner. Planning of this development really should have recognized what was there. And in fact, although 5 feet doesn't sound like much, there is an encroachment. There used to be a lot of space there, and now there's not a lot of space, and the backyards are there, and I can see the impact on that. So I really sympathize with the owners of the properties that surround this, and really I would like it if in fact they can stay as far away from that boundary line as possible rather than to go closer to the boundary line, because the impact on the neighboring properties is already felt. Let's not make it any worse. That's my opinion. And again, a thought to that, I can see exactly your plan. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I think frankly it may impact more than we may realize that. So that's my thoughts on that, having read the notes, and like I say, it's let's not add to the controversy and let's not add to the impact which is already there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durley, for your input. Other members with input or questions? Councillor Papp?
Along the similar lines with Councillor Durley, but I guess a question to Mr. Lucetta. From what you have done as far as your marketing on the proposed development for bungalows, does it seem highly likely, less likely of them being bungalows? Because it seems like what has been constructed there has been the 1-story sort of facilities. I haven't seen anything with 2-story, and you know, I express the same sort of concern about the squeezing of property, but I mean, I'd like to hear what you're hearing.
Mr. Lucetta, please.
Well, the demand really definitely focuses towards, you know, the empty nesters, and that's mainly who we focus on, you know, the 50-plus crowd kind of thing, and mainly they're looking for bungalows. So, you know, we're looking to build bungalows. You know, in addressing Mr. Durley also, the earlier he was talking about, well, let's be kind to what was there already, and you know, part of this subdivision is also there's 13 townhouses going up too, right?
Right.
So, you know, that's also part of this property also. So we're trying to address it that way too. So, you know, having a mix, you know, maybe some smaller homes, so we can address like the 14 to 1600 square foot size homes with our townhomes, and then people who are looking for something a little bit bigger with the bungalows. The townhomes are also bungalows. So yeah, we're definitely focused towards bungalows. That's where the market is, and that's what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lucetta. Councillor?
No, I think you're hearing from is that there be a balance to make sure that we're not overstating it, and I think we want to make sure that the development continues along those lines, as opposed to, you know, having sort of a, I would say, major discrepancy in the type of buildings. And what I've seen is something that, and both Councilor Durley and I have been on long enough to, we want to see the development, and we also want to be very compatible to what the local neighbors there are looking at as well. So I'm pleased to hear about the fence, because I know that that was an issue before, and I know that you'll make every effort to do that.
Yeah, the fence was not part of the subdivision agreement.
Right.
But we have agreed, and I've spoken to Ms. Smythe about that we are gonna do that, to, work with the neighbors. And also, to make a nice aesthetically pleasing kind of finish and start between the two subdivisions.
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Mr. Lucetta. Other input? I have a couple of, you wanted to speak further?
I'd like to ask him a question, if I may. With you.
Sure.
Come on up again. That's Ms. Macaretta, correct?
Fencing. I had paid for a fence with a gate. Now, what happens to my fence with the gate?
Okay.
And my neighbor's fence, and this other neighbor's fence? Is that just going to be a fence and a fence? We're gonna have two fences there? Or what happens to my fence?
Who can respond to, thank you. Who can respond to that? Mr. Lucetta, can you
I
respond?
have no right to go on someone else's property and tear down their fence. So we are gonna be putting a new fence right along all three sides. And so that will, we'll fence in the new area. It'll be up to them whether they want to remove their fence or not, I guess. I have no right to go onto their property.
Okay, it sounds like, Ms. Macaretta, it sounds like a conversation perhaps you and Mr. Lucetta can have
Can we have
directly.
that?
And
Yeah.
maybe there's something that can be worked out. Okay, thank you for that question. I did have a question about the, two items. One was the encroachment piece, Ms. Smythe, and I appreciate your diagrams. Regarding the purple, you said that there's the first encroachment and then there's the second encroachment.
I'll just scroll down a little bit.
I appreciate that. Just clarify that, because what we heard is from Mr. Lucetta, I'll give you the rationale, the reason why I'm asking, and then maybe you can assist. Mr. Lucetta, I heard him state that the intention is, in that encroachment area, you can build a deck, and his intention for the development is to put a roof over the deck.
Okay, sure.
So why wouldn't that be allowed now? And I just want to hear a little bit more about that.
Okay, so as it stands now, and please keep in mind, encroachment means, so if it was an uncovered deck, not above 2 feet, so it's got to be lower than 2 feet, it's allowed to encroach 1.5 meters. So you have your building, right? And then you can encroach the 1.5 meters.
Okay?
So now if somebody wants to attach a roof to that deck, it's no longer classified as a deck, it's now a structure. So then that forms part of, if you will, part of the building
site.
itself. So now he's requesting that encroachment is increased by another 5 feet. That's the proposal as it stands right now.
But the building wall itself,
Yes.
the back wall of the house
Correct.
is still,
It's
can only be 20, what is it? How many feet away?
24.61 feet, yes. Yes. So,
But
but if you put a roof on top of a deck, it's no longer just a deck, it's classified as part of the building. So then, when you classify that, so it's now the 24 feet plus the 9.84 feet. So this, by allowing for the encroachment, instead of increasing the rear lot, minimum rear lot, there will be no opportunity to further encroach. This would be the more restrictive, if you will, to allow for any of the building to enter into the rear lot. So this was the, if you will, the more restrictive onto allowing any building structures to enter into the rear lot.
Okay, so to Mr. Lucas's question, it says 34 feet on the the darker, should it not be 24 feet, like it's going 5 feet closer, is that?
So
or am I
you're
thinking about this
adding the
wrong?
so what you're doing is you're adding there's 7.5 meters right now for the minimum rear lot. Okay, setback.
Yes.
The request is to add an additional 3 meters for the encroachment, which then, instead of it being the 1.5, so he's requesting 3 meters. So instead of 29.53 feet, he's asking for 34.45 feet.
No.
That's for
24 feet.
It's opposite to that.
I apologize. You're right. That needs to be corrected.
Okay.
My
All right.
apologies. I'm a little off and
So,
that's
so it'll
correct.
be 24,
It
that's
would
to
be
Mr.
24
Lucas's
feet.
question.
My
Okay.
apologies. Yes.
It'll be 24 feet, 25, let's call it 25.
25 feet.
24 and a half feet from the property line.
Yes.
And now the current is
Is-
29.
Correct. My apologies.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it, and that encroachment piece, that extra piece,
Yes.
can it be stipulated that that's only a deck, is my question. I know you call it covered deck a structure.
No.
Can that be stipulated, or can you research whether that can be stipulated or
We
not?
could do that. We, based on the discussions today, we can bring this back through the planning department, have discussions, and also with the proponent as well. Again, this is a proposal. It's not set in stone at the moment. It's just a proposal.
Okay.
That's being undertaken at the moment in time.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the
My
final.
apologies for the confusion.
No, and maybe you can clarify that, and we can include that diagram with the minutes, just so that we have it. And then the final is hours of construction. We heard one of the presenters and many people commenting about the hours of construction and that occurred. Those hours, I believe, are 7 to 7. I don't know if they asked this, Mr. Lucetta, what's going forward in terms of?
Yeah, those would be reasonable hours. I was not aware of someone doing work on the Easter weekend type of thing. I had hired a gentleman to cut trees, and then, they're doing it on the side type of thing. So I wasn't aware of that, and, if it would brought to my attention, I could have put a stop to that, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lucetta.
Working on Sunday, I have no problem, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lucetta. Thank you. Any other comments from committee? Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, when I look at the aerial view here of Tanner, Braden Way, et cetera, it appears to me, and perhaps our planning staff can clarify that, it appears that on Tanner, some of the homes that front on Tanner and back onto this development have encroachments as well into the rear yard. So this is not necessarily precedent setting. We already see that, and we also see that on Mason as well. Am I correct on that?
Ms. Smythe?
Mr. Chair, through you, that is correct. And more recently, we've just actually undertaken some committee of adjustment type of applications for the same proposal, encroachments into the rear yard setback.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's it for input this evening. If there's anything further, you can write us a letter or send us an email to the clerk. I'm going to call this portion of the meeting to a close. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that Committee of the Whole receives this issue summary report for information as it pertains to the application, file number AM0914, for the subject lands referred to as Ryan's Grove subdivision, located south of the existing lots on Sadler Street and east of the existing lots on Tanner Drive, and further that committee directs planning staff to prepare a recommendation report for council's consideration at a later time. Any other comments? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that report coming at a subsequent date with all of the input from this evening. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your input. We do we not have another item of correspondence? No, it's for the next issue. Thank you very much. You can also write the town some letters, et cetera, if you have further input. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really,
We'll just take a moment as folks clear out. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Ms. Smythe, can you open that door now? I think it's...
Sure.
Yeah.
Air conditioning off. We're freezing. Wow, I know, but
I can put my coat on.
Sue, want to go over?
Can you just turn the air conditioning down a little? Yeah, there.
So it's warmer.
warmer.
Yeah, like
We're all freezing up here.
Councilor's freezing.
minus 30 up here.
Yeah, an icicle tank.
Fahrenheit or
Yeah.
Celsius, I don't care.
1 degree.
Is she moving? Yeah, it's been like, I'm freezing.
Okay, we ready to go? I see Councilor Papp has left. No doubt he'll be back very quickly. So let's move on to the next application, the application for zoning bylaw amendment for 380 Cream Street, file number AM 0714, Joyce Sonneveld. An amendment to modify the agricultural zone provisions to capture deficiencies as a result of a farm surplus dwelling. Consent on Part 1, which is to be retained a residential lot, and to rezone the lands to agricultural purpose only on the severed lot, Part 2, and to prohibit future residential uses in perpetuity. The Planning Act requires under Section 3412, the council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public of proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. This public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on June 24th, 2014. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. In addition to planning staff providing information on the application, we will also receive, as we've done before, any comments or questions that members of the public may wish to offer. There is an attendance list on one of the tables here, which we would ask all present who are interested in this issue to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passage of the amendment by council, should this occur. If a person or public body decides to file an appeal of a decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw and does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendment is adopted or refused, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of the appeal. In closing, we stress that at no point in this meeting has a decision been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and therefore any comments received will be taken into consideration by council in their consideration at a later, this evening and at a later date. I'll call on planning staff to review the application quickly for us, Ms. Smythe.
Good evening, Chair, members of Committee Council, and those in the public gallery. I'm here to present an application to amend the zoning as a requirement of a condition of consent to sever a residence surplus to a farming operation. The subject parcel is located on the west side of Cream Street, south of Chandler Road. It is surrounded by agricultural land with scattered rural residential located on the north along Chandler and further south along Weber Road. To provide context on a planning policy framework, I can offer you the following: that the parcel is located outside of the Greenbelt and Niagara Escarpment Plan area and therefore are not subject to those policies. With respect to the 2014 Provincial Policy Statement, Policy 2.3.4.1 for lot creation in prime agricultural areas is discouraged and may only be permitted under these circumstances. 1. Agricultural uses provided that the lots are of a size appropriate for the type of agricultural common in the area and are sufficiently large to maintain flexibility for future changes in the type or size of agricultural operations. 2. Agricultural related uses provided that any new lot will be limited to a minimum size to accommodate the use and appropriate sewage and water services. 3. A residence surplus to a farming operation as a result of a farm consolidation, provided that the new lot will be limited to a minimum size needed to accommodate the use and appropriate sewage and water service, and that the planning authority ensures that new residential dwellings are prohibited on any remnant parcel of farmland created by the severance. The approach used to ensure that no new residential dwellings are permitted are permitted on the remnant parcel may be recommended by the province or based on municipal approaches which achieve the same objective. This policy statement further defines residence surplus to a farming operation as an existing habitable farm residence that is rendered surplus as a result of a farm consolidation. In accordance to the regional policy plan, it identifies the subject parcel as good general agricultural area, and the predominant use of land will be for agricultural of all types, including livestock operations. Specifically, Policy 6A91 specifies that consents to convey lands in good general agricultural areas are permitted in the circumstances where the consent to convey is for a residence surplus to a farming operation, provided that new residential dwellings are prohibited in perpetuity on any vacant remnant parcel of land created by the severance. As a condition of severance, the applicant must have the remnant farm parcel rezoned to preclude its use for residential purposes. The current town official plan designates the subject parcel as good general agricultural. The purpose of the designation is to protect and maintain land suitable for agricultural production and permit uses which support and or compatible with the agriculturals, including raising livestock, forestry, conservation, and residential uses related to agricultural, which are also permitted. The adopted but not yet approved official plan designates the subject parcel as good general agricultural, and the intent is similar to that of the existing official plan for the protection and maintenance of land suitable for agricultural production. The subject parcel is currently zoned agricultural, which permits the use of lands for a variety of agricultural purposes, including greenhouses, forestry, conservation, as well as kennels, buildings and structures accessory to one single detached dwelling on one lot. With respect to the public participation requirements under the Planning Act, a formal public notice was issued on June 24th of this year to all properties within 400 feet of the parcel. As well, a public notice poster was placed on the lands fronting Cream Street. During the 20-day notice period, the Planning Department received one comment as it pertained to the farm surplus dwelling severance policies and not specific to this application. Staff has contacted the individual, and a subsequent meeting is being planned in the coming weeks to discuss the policies in more detail. In addition to the public notice, the application was also circulated to internal and external agencies having an interest. The town's internal departments all have no objections to the proposed amendment. Both the regional planning staff and the conservation staff provided comments on the application and noted that their concerns were addressed through the consent application process, and consequently they have no objections to this amendment. To reiterate, the request of this application is to amend the provisions of the agricultural zone to allow on Part 1, which is going to be retained for the residential use, the existing barn and sheds and a pond, as well as to capture any identified deficiencies in the regulation under the agricultural zone. And specifically, it's for the, to recognize an increase in the maximum building height for the accessory structure, that being the barn. Also to rezone Part 2, which is the larger farm parcel, to agricultural purposes only, which will preclude any use for residential purpose. So to conclude, the intent again, the meeting is to just provide the information on this application, and at no time to make no formal decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smythe, for your report and for your comments. I wonder if the applicant would like to make a presentation. Ms. Sonneveld, you're here. Are you anything, nothing else to add? Thank you very much. Now is the time for public input. Are there any members of the public that would like to provide some input to council on this particular amendment? I don't see any. Okay, now we're moving to committees input. Any input from members of committee? Thank you. We've done a few of these through the town lately, so thank you. Anything further? We're ready for the motion. It's been moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the Committee of the Whole receives the issue summary report for information as it pertains to the application file number AM0714 for the subject parcel located at 380 Cream Street, and further, the committee directs planning staff to prepare a recommendation report for council's consideration at a later date. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We have one item of correspondence relating to this matter. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Lane. Just if I can get this piece of paper here. That the correspondence received at the public meeting held on July 14th, 2014 regarding the application AM 0714 be received for the information of committee and referred to the Director of Planning and Development Services as follows. C. Montemoro. Any discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. That portion of the meeting is concluded. Thank you, Ms. Sonneveld, for being here for the evening. Thank you. We move to the next item. Thank you, Ms. Smythe. Good night. Move to the next item. Town of Pelham application for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for application for draft plan of subdivision, file number AM 0414, OP AM 0114, and 01014. Amendments to the zoning bylaw and official plan, and to request the approval of a draft plan of subdivision for the proposed development of approximately 53 acres for the commercial use, including retail and restaurant, medical facility, retirement residence, community center, and residential use. The Planning Act requires under section 22(3), 32(12), and 21.2 that council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect to proposed amendments to the official plan, zoning bylaw, and draft plan of subdivision. This public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners on the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on June 23rd. This notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw. In addition to providing information, we'll also receive any comments which a member of the public may wish to offer. There is an attendance list on the table, and we would ask all present to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passage of amendment by council, should this occur. If a person or public body decides to file an amendment of a decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw and draft plan of subdivision, and does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendments and draft plan are adopted or refused, the intermunicipal board may dismiss all or part of the appeal. In closing, we stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments and the draft plan of subdivision, and therefore any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration both this evening and at a later date. I would ask Mr. Glover to give us a planning report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor. As you see the applications in front of you here, we have an application for a draft plan of subdivision, an official plan amendment, and a zoning bylaw amendment. These applications are to bring the lands into conformity and to facilitate the development of these lands, which I'll go through. The application was submitted on May 2nd, 2014, and as such, we circulated in the newspaper on June 19th. We also circulated again on July 3rd, and we circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the site through Canada Post. In addition, there's on-site signage on Rice Road as well as Highway 20 describing the plan applications. In addition, because this application is so large and has great impact on the town, we had a public open house, which is outside the Plan Act, yet we felt it was important for the community to be involved with the discussion. That was held on May 21st at St. Andrew's Catholic Elementary School. And through that, pardon me?
Alexander's.
I'm sorry, it's Alexander's. Through that meeting, we had plenty of discussion with ratepayers and residents, mostly positive, but wanted to clarification on what was happening, timing, types of uses. It was very good and productive meeting. Excuse me. Yeah, the lands shown on this plan here are on Highway 20 and Rice Road on the northwest corner there. The area is outside the greenbelt. It is considered a settlement area, so it's not subject to the restrictions of the greenbelt plan. It's outside the area of the Niagara Escarpment plan, so there's no implications on Niagara Escarpment. And in terms of places to grow requires that we have efficient and increased densities, which we are trying to accomplish in this plan. The provincial policy statements of 2014 requires strong communities and promote economic development and competitiveness. Also, it strengthens the increased densities that are required under the growth plan. We are also trying to accomplish that under this plan. The regional policy plan considers this area a Font Hill urban area boundary, which permits this type of use. The town's current official plan is business park, and the current adopted official plan for a secondary plan of this area is urban settlement area. Sorry, the town's, this is confusing, so let me go through this in more detail. I'll come back to these slides here. The current official plan, which is the plan that's currently subject to the town because our new official plan is before the board, which does not have decision, is business park. And that's the area here, and that's the designation. It's town planning staff's opinion that this area has been approved or been adopted under the secondary plan. However, to remove any objections, to give further clarification, we've included the amendment to speak to the redesignation of business park because we don't have the board's decision yet, as well as we're speaking to the amendment to change this portion of the lands. Let me clarify that because of the distance. To change this portion of the lands from mixed use to this portion, the same, so the whole thing will be the purple, then that'll be urban highway commercial designation. This should clarify for all purposes what the intent of the redesignation of the lands are. The town's current zoning designation has these lands as agricultural. This is the current view from Highway 20 across the street looking south. As you can see, it's a field, and we have the new medical center sign there and the new land development sign. Over in this direction, there's another sign on Rice Road showing what the development will be. This is the plan of the proposed plan of subdivision. The roads respect the secondary plan, which we consider as being approved, so planning's opinion. The blocks are laid out in the form of the secondary plan, which basically strengthens or adds value to the secondary plan and demonstration plan development of this area. This is what we've envisioned for quite a while. We're just looking at the fruition of this development now. I'll go through the blocks here to propose the uses. Block number 1, this area here, is where the new Wellsprings Care Center is proposed to go, as well as there's a little remnant piece of land that would be left over from the offering of the Wellsprings. I'll speak to that shortly. Lot number 2 is retail commercial. There's a proposed grocery store and retail strip plaza, as well as a Tim Hortons and McDonald's use as proposed on this site. A site plan for this has not yet been submitted. We're working behind the scenes to work out the details of the site plan, which will then likely be subject to an informal public meeting for information purposes. Block number 3 will be for a medical center in this area where the sign currently exists on the site, as well as this area here will be for retirement, we'll call it nursing home, but an elderly care facility. This area to the south, we're hoping to have a hotel or some other comparable use located in that area. This block number 6 here will be a stormwater pond, which will be fronting on both Highway 20 as well as Rice Road. Not just the standard stormwater pond that you would normally see, but it's going to be an aesthetic feature. It's going to be an entry gate to the community. So it'll be something that will be enjoyable to go past and look at, but it'll also tie into this retirement home complex to add synergy to the development as you come into Font Hill. Block number 4 is the location of the proposed multi-use recreation center. Block number 6 is another stormwater pond that will be tied into a park site on this side. And this block number 7, this long area, is a tributary stream, which is, has environmental regulations on it. As discussed, the secondary plan was adopted and approved by the Ontario Municipal Board, designating these lands, as you see here, mixed use as well as highway commercial. Again, we're proposing to redesignate these lands to highway commercial to facilitate the development of the zoning which we're going to speak to. This area here, reflects the red area, and that's what the official plan is for. In the application, the report that was presented is on the website. This was the original application for the zoning bylaw amendment, but through further discussions, both environmental features as well as the Wellsprings area, refinements have taken place to more correctly define what the zoning is going to be. We have brought a copy. If you're interested in this, there will be a copy attached to the report on the website after the meeting, as well as a handout, if you received it tonight, going through the details of the text of that zoning, as well as showing the refined configuration of the zones. This is the new zoning. I'll go back and forth to toggle to show you the difference. The new zoning respects that zone there was currently residential. Because Wellsprings is going to go in that area, it no longer makes sense to have a residential pocket behind a commercial center next to Wellsprings, next to a creek on its own. It doesn't provide opportunities for proper development. What has been proposed is that the MU3 extend over to allow compatible uses with the Wellsprings facility, to allow synergies and to allow for a benefit to the entire community. In addition, the EFO zone, open space zone back here, it has environmental protection features as well as ties into the park and the swim pond area, as well as there may be a bridge connection at some point to a larger park on this side. That has been done, and I'll go back to the original. That has been done because it hasn't been included in the original plan, and through refinements to the plan and discussions, we felt it best be included at this point in time. In addition, this area here, which is behind the current the McDonald's, and I think the Donut Diner was originally there, that area has been removed from the plan because it's not currently part of this application. In addition, the town square site, which will be somewhat in this location here, has been refined as we fine-tune what we expect the programming and the size of the area that we're hoping for. Finally, there is a road widening required along the Rice Road side. This area has been identified, although it was always anticipated, it's been identified for a multi-use trail facility. So we pulled that out of the development and now subjected it to what we require there. This development and the comments that we've heard in the public media is we want active transportation here. We want bike lanes. We want walkways for people. Cars are important, but this is a community that is onto its own, yet is also part of the greater Fonthill downtown. So that's what we try to achieve here. The applicant has provided a number of supporting documents: environmental impact study for the natural area, watercourse realignment feasibility study and assessment, the preliminary stormwater management plan, the traffic impact study phase 1, as well as a more detailed traffic impact study for the Regional Road 20 right-in, right-out design. Archaeological assessment has been done for a portion of the lands for stage 1, 2, and 3, and that's now complete. We're waiting for the ministry sign-off on that. And archaeological assessment for the town lands, stage 1, and 2, and 3 have been partially completed. We're waiting for reports on stage number 3, and stage number 4 is currently underway. My apologies, the consultant is different here. The consultant that did the work for us is Golder Associates, and they've just submitted today stage 2 report, so that hasn't been included here, but we do have that. Finally, I just read this, and this came in. A property owner, Hummel Properties, submitted this letter in support of the applications. He has a number of properties on
Port Robinson Road.
On Rice Road.
Port Robinson Road.
Port Robinson, that's correct. So the applicant, if I just summarize here, the applicant is trying to put the official plan and the zoning and break the land up through a subdivision to respect the secondary plan which is previously approved. Everything that's being proposed is in line with the official plan, secondary plan that's been approved by the board. We're just trying to implement that here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Glover, for your comments and for your planning report. I wonder if the applicants would like to make any further comment? Thank you.
Good evening, council, staff. I'd just like to thank Terrence for his very comprehensive review of the application. My name is Jennifer Vita. I'm the agent here on behalf of the owners, and I am a registered professional planner. As you know, the Allen Group and the Town of Pelham have submitted applications for official plan amendment, zoning amendment, and draft plan of subdivision. Upper Canada Consultants has been working with the town and the Allen Group and the planning partnership over the last several months towards bringing forth this plan for you tonight. A public open house was held in May. The open house was an opportunity for the team to present the plans to the public and to gain input and to answer questions from the public. The open house was well attended, with the majority of the residents looking for greater clarity on the proposal. There were no objections presented at the information meeting, and since the open house, there have been no verbal or written objections submitted. The development proposal has since been refined, as Terrence outlined, updated to provide better clarity, but the general intent of the land uses have not changed. Tonight, we're here to satisfy the requirements under the Planning Act to hold a statutory public meeting for the applications. And the next step in the process would be to bring forth a staff recommendation report for approval. Part of the design team is here tonight in order to answer any specific questions that council or the public may have. And again, I'd like to thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vita, for your presentation and for your work. Now is the time for public input. Are there any members of the public that would like to make any input regarding any part of the proposal? Please, sir, come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name, and council members and members of the public, my name is Brian Wall. I'm a resident of Welland, but I do consider myself a sort of Niagara resident. I was born in St. Catharines. My grandparents had a farm in Louisville in the 1970s, and now I live in Welland. So I do kind of feel like this is my home. And yeah, I'm going to try, because I have a lot here, so I'm going to try to condense it, and going to be going back and forth between what I've written and just orally kind of presenting some information. So just bear with me. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for convening this meeting. While opinions may vary on the issues we're discussing tonight, the very fact we have all come out together and given our time shows we're all concerned about the future of the area here that we live in. So thanks to you all for that. I'm here to discuss, of course, the Rice Road Highway 20 development, and I endeavored to provide a concise presentation and take a few minutes of your time to describe not only my thoughts on this development, but also about the beauty and complexity of the world in which we live in. And I hope to demonstrate how the small decisions we make today are vital to the health of not only our community, but by extension, the larger world around us. And one of the things in my spare time I do is I do a lot of bird watching and videos and everything like that too. And recently I've just finished reading this book by David Attenborough on the life of birds. So it may seem like a kind of, why aren't you talking about the development? In a way I am. I'm talking about the nature, which is part of everywhere we live. So I contacted the publisher, and they did say that I could read from the book as part of my presentation this evening, but that I couldn't print anything, and anything being recorded is probably best to be just deleted because it may infringe on the copyright. And again, I'm just sharing this because when I was reading this, I found it so inspiring to me to learn about nature and to learn about specifically birds and how they've evolved and how they live, that I thought, you know, just to share this and see what it does for people, because it really did a lot for me. So I'm just going to read a section here where he's talking about, and again, I'm going to get to the specifics that I have about the proposal. It's just something that we can take inspiration from, I think, all of us. So here in this section of the book, which was, like I said, David Attenborough, he's done many, many books that he's written. He's done BBC documentaries where they took 10 years actually to make this series called The Life of Birds. They went all around the world. So here in this section, he's talking about the hummingbird, okay? As we know, they're birds that drink the nectar of flowers and they fly almost like a helicopter. They can go forwards, backwards. It's pretty amazing. So here he's talking about the manner of flying. The manner of flying demands a great deal of energy. Nectar, the hummingbird's food, is the biological equivalent of a high-octane fuel, but even so, a hummingbird consumes such quantities that it may need to refuel as many as 2,000 times a day. Even at rest, its body needs a great deal of fuel simply to keep ticking over. Part of this is used to keep its flying muscles at a high temperature and ready for instant takeoff. But when night comes and it is unable to see to fly, those muscles are not used and that heat is not needed. So in the evening, when a hummingbird arrives at its roost, it deliberately ruffles its feathers and allows its body to cool. During the day, its heart beats from 500 to 1,200 times a minute. Now it slows down so much that its throb is virtually undetectable. Nor does the bird appear to be breathing. In effect, it is doing what a hedgehog does when winter approaches. It is hibernating. A hummingbird, however, has to hibernate 365 times every year. So when I read that a few weeks ago, I was just so amazed that this is a bird that has just evolved on its own over thousands of years. And it just lives on its own, you know. And there are many flowers, many things that are dependent on that hummingbird going to the flower for its survival. As we all know, everything is connected, right? So everything we do with whatever land that we have, it's connected to everything else, right? So that's why for me, when I saw the proposal, and I appreciate all the time and energy and everything that's gone into it, I'm not against anybody, right? I just think that, you know, we just need to put real thought into it before we change the face of the earth, as we already have done to such a large degree, that we need to think about this, because in 50 years, you know, none of us are going to be here, and it won't be any of our problem. It's going to be the problem of the next people that are sitting around this table to say, what did we do, you know? And I think back to 200 years ago when there was a member of parliament in Britain standing up against slavery. And everybody in the parliament was so against him for saying, hey, we're making too much money to abolish slavery, you know? And what are they going to think about in 200 years to us, that they just kept building, 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 that they didn't think about the nature around them? And so that's my concern. And I'm not saying that everything should be just abandoned and everything. I can understand so much of the project. You go down 20 Highway, there's, you know, industrial something, 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 and then there's that stretch of nothing, and then there's the McDonald's. I can understand how that part, well, probably makes sense to incorporate some more businesses and things like that. But when you look further, and the first time when I found out about it, I kept driving and driving all the way, and then I see the sign for Welland, and I see that it's the whole section that is in the proposal, much of which is kind of rural right now. And of course, there is the area of the forested area that's been protected, and the streams and stuff like that. So obviously, and there's been consideration about cycling lanes and walking, which is great, because as we know, it's just getting, you know, worse and worse in our climate. And again, in 50 years, none of us here are gonna have to worry about that. It's the people that are coming after us, you know? And so I just think we should really put that as our first perspective. Of course, we all want to have more comfortable lives, more happiness, more time to enjoy our families. But there is, you know, I brought another book with me here that's sustainable.
Mr. Wall
Like,
or
it's
Mr.
a
Wall?
long time, I know, yeah.
Well, you're approaching 8 minutes, or you're over 8 minutes. We usually say about 10 minutes or so
Okay,
for a
sure.
presentation, so if you can just kind of wrap it up and.
Sure. Like I
Thank
say,
you.
I knew I had a lot to say, and I
Thank you.
appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Sure. No, I'm going to wrap it up. So what I have here is a guide, a comparative guide to sustainable construction. And Chris Magwood, he's been building sustainable homes for over 20 years. He lives in the Peterborough area. Maybe some of you know of him. He does straw bale construction. He actually teaches. He has a thing called the Endeavor Center where he teaches people, even through building code. I saw his website this summer. It was even learning building code and everything like that. And for me, why not, if you're going to have a retirement home or this village, why not call it the Font Hill Eco Village, you know? And it could be now, you know, if this area has to be developed, why not make it an example to the rest of Niagara, to the rest of Toronto, to everybody, and all of a sudden it's going to be, oh my God, look at this, what they're doing to their community. They're actually promoting, you know, you can have every house can have solar panels on the roof. You know, the retirement home, there'd be plenty of room for solar panels on the roof there, just like they have at Niagara College. And, you know, there's just so many creative ways that if we have to expand in this area, we can do it in a more sustainable fashion. And really, that's my main concern, that if there's no other way, obviously the population is growing. You know, I've read on websites where there's 110,000 more people a year in the Golden Horseshoe area. So, you know, for myself, I would prefer to see the end of it near the Highway 20 to be, okay, if it has to be, okay, put in the industrial, those kind of places. But, you know, and I can see how a lot of people that had land there that would be, okay, I'm going to get $1 million for my house that I might have got only $300,000 for before. Of course they're going to approve it, you know. But there is a video which I actually got at the Welland Library, Climate of Change, and there's a man in here that was just, I know I'm probably going over time, so I want to wrap this up, but this was a story I thought was important to hear. I didn't even know, but there's a thing going on in the States, in West Virginia, called mountaintop removal, where they're actually, during the Bush administration, they were allowed to go in there, these coal companies, instead of mining from underneath, they were allowed to blow off the top of the mountain. And when you see this, you think, oh my God, I never even knew about this. And there's one man there, he had 50 acres of land that was in his family for generations. And he said, I don't agree with this. And they were going to give him $1 million an acre. And he said, I'm not selling $50 million. And the man from the coal company came to visit him and said, we're the ocean, you're the island, and we're going to surround you. And he actually said that to him. And he still didn't sell. And now, all around him, the mountaintops are just destroyed. And it's just him left listening to, you know, just to get coal, which is a non-renewable resource. And of course, this isn't what's happening here, but it is a small picture that if we allow it to go on, it's just going to go on and on and on. And again, it's not going to be our problem. It's going to be somebody else's problem later on. So, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And we are dealing with you've identified the plan here. We are dealing with a portion in the northern part.
Sure.
But perhaps council will take your comments in terms of environmental sustainability, eco-village, et cetera, as we consider other development as it proceeds.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
also, if there was a possibility to get, as I looked on the website, I wasn't able to find the environmental assessment. So is there possible as a freedom of information, or is that possible to get a copy of
Glover,
that?
the environmental assessment or environmental impact study?
We'll place that on the website. We're currently going through it, making sure it's complete.
Okay.
And it's fine. Once we determine that and it becomes a public document, and will be available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
again
much for your
your
presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you. I think you dropped something there, sir. Mr. Wall. Thank you. Are there other members of the public that would like to comment on the application that's before us? Anyone? No? Yes? Go ahead. Would you mind just coming? Thank you very much.
I traveled considerable distance and did that to be here tonight because this was the last public meeting. I've been to these public meetings over and over and over again, and it's gone on for way too long.
Can you remind us of your name?
Brian Sullivan, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
All right,
Good to see you
I'm
again.
sorry, I should have done that. Please, excuse me. I have no objection with the development that you're proposing. I was hoping tonight when you said East Font Hill that it was going to encompass more than that. I know that we've gone through the planning. I'm talking about the fact of the Station Street properties. That is where I own property, and I've been watching and waiting to see what's going to happen. This whole thing, I guess my presence tonight was not so much to raise any issue with that. I like what's happening there. I think it's a good move in the right direction. My question, though, is where are we on the rest of the development? Where are we on the Station Street? I had told my wife at one stage this is going to be perhaps our retirement package, and yes, I'm concerned about the environment as everyone else, but the fact is that she didn't live long enough to see it. I'm wondering tonight, am I going to live long enough to see it or not? That's my question, and I know that's not the purpose, but since I came to
Well,
state my
certainly.
piece.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I appreciate your question, your presentation on behalf of council. Mr. Glover, can you answer that? I believe those lands are covered by the official plan, so maybe you can answer Mr. Sullivan's question, please.
The development, we see this commercial area, and people have referred to it as the village of East Font Hill, but I'm no longer calling it that because it's not the village of East Font Hill, it's a part of Font Hill. So it's the Font Hill commercial area to the east. That is the catalyst which we hope will spur on the development itself here. There currently is a development in the works, residential, called River Realty. This one here, Rosewood, has just been approved. We're waiting for
Well, Mr. Sullivan was interested in Station Street, so.
Yes, so these two developments here are the first forward. We haven't had any applications or internal discussions on anything else, any other residential development in this area. As soon as an application comes forward or proponent is interested in developing these lands, that we would be happy to entertain. In terms of speed, it's based on the proponent or the developer when they want to come forward with an application.
Maybe Mr. CAO can provide a little bit more clarity to what Mr. Sullivan was getting at. Thank you, Mr. Glover. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The intention of the development is to proceed with completion of the road work by 2015. That would include the connection onto Station Street that would bring Pelham Town Square right through East Font Hill to Rice Road. So that connection is scheduled for phase 1 of the overall development, and we're optimistic that that will be completed up along with the other elements that you heard this evening.
And then the final piece that I want to add, at the piece that I was getting at and thinking about that staff would answer, Mr. Sullivan, is that the lands along Station Street in what's called the official plan, so it's not in the East Font Hill secondary plan area, but it's in our overall official plan for the town. Those are called downtown transitional in the front part. So we're waiting, and I think Mr. Glover made reference to it, we're waiting, and we're like any day now, response from the Ontario Municipal Board. It was appealed, And everybody agreed at the end of the whole process, so we're awaiting the intermunicipal board to say, yes, it's been approved, that the frontages of those properties will be what's called downtown transitional. There's certain zoning that you can have there, sort of different lawyers' offices, hair salons, that kind of thing, to ease the transition from the downtown into other residential area. And then the back part of the property is covered by this East Fawn Hill secondary plan and could be developed along with a road system that could go in. So the CEO has indicated a timeline for the major bones of the roads. It's a question of, once the development occurs, as Mr. Glover stated, will it be the catalyst for future development? You know, we're hoping so. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Sullivan.
Let me just add this, sir, if I could. And that is that at a previous public meeting back probably 3 years ago, when the official plan was arrived for that Station Street area,
yes,
it was suggested in the public forum that we needed to take and have more families in Fawn Hill in order to support the school system, in order to have that maintained so that we didn't diminish the capacity that was there and that we would be able to maintain that. And that's why I'm wondering regarding the delay. It just seems next year. I'm not certain how many more next years there might be. It really would be nice to have something sorted out. And I realize we're all working with the same approach, but thank
okay,
you.
thank you very much. Just to, the intermunicipal board had its hearing in March, and they're supposed to rule within 90 days, so it's supposed to be any day now, or it's supposed to be any day 3 weeks ago. Okay, thank you very much. Any further public input regarding this particular amendment that's before us? Okay, now members of council. Any input from members of council? Okay, thank you. There is a change here that you've suggested, Mr. Glover, and that will be published on the website, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The change is for, again, the zoning amendment. The parcels, the designations have been divided up to more accurately reflect what's going to happen there, as well as the text has been changed. This will appear, it already appears, I believe, on the website, or on the report. That'll be on the website as a schedule to this report, though it's not referred to in the report, but the text will also be included.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything further from members of council? It's been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King, the Committee of the Whole receive the information report regarding official plan amendment OPAM 0114, zoning bylaw amendment AM 0414, and draft plan of subdivision 26T-19-01014 for the lands locally known as the East Fawn Hill Commercial Area, measuring approximately 53 acres and being located on the southwest corner of Highway 20 and Rice Road in the town of Pelham. And further, the Committee of the Whole direct planning staff to develop a recommendation report on this matter, which will be brought to council for further approval at a later date. No more comments or questions. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the correspondence received at the public meeting held today regarding these plans be received for information of committee and referred to the Director of Planning and Development Services as follows. Hummel Properties letter of support. Comments, questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. There being no further business, it's been moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that this special meeting of Committee of the Whole be adjourned until the next regular committee scheduled for Monday, July 21st, 2014, unless sooner called by the mayor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your participation this evening.
I think somebody should really talk to that Mr. I didn't know that. I mean, I never heard of it. So multiple.
He's been here before.
I've never heard of it. Like, it's not within